Hello, everyone. Welcome to That Geek show, where you get to speak face to face with world experts and get personal advice that will help you in your own life, in your own business, on your own adventures. I'm your host, Ifat Cohen, and today we are chatting with Kale Panoho. Hey, Kale. Oopsie. You know what? I messed you up. Hold on a second. I told you messed you up. Look at this. So, guys, you guys gonna have to forgive us for a second because something was working at the beginning and now it doesn't. So we'll do it again. There we go. Hey, Kale.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on.
So I always love when stuff is live and then you're like, technical difficulties. So Kale is in the future. He is in Australia. What time is it over there? Close.
I'm in New Zealand, but it's 8 a.m. here.
I know, we're missing that sexy accent. So Kale is a partner at K&J Growth. He is a digital specialist who created the most commented video ever published on LinkedIn in 2018. And that is amazing because comments and views are completely different. He also got over 2 million views. He created a network of over 5,000 CEOs, general managers, politicians, including the former and current minister, under 90 days. And he put all that system into a guide, a tactics guide, and that guide has been downloaded over 18,000 times. So today we are going to dive into the guide, specifically into LinkedIn, how to go viral on LinkedIn, and we even have a little game that we are going to play. So if you're joining us right now, I got here a little Android box, mini collection, special edition of a little Android little thing. And today we're going to do a little game and see if you can win that. So if you want to win this and you want to be part of our game, then come on over to thatgeek.com/live. Right below the video, there are comments and there is a button where you can join us in the conversation and pick our brain in real time, which is the biggest value of joining us live. So let's dive into LinkedIn, Kale. You are young. You and I were talking before.
Yes.
Why? You're a little my age, a little older than me. And, and as a young person, most young people, they go into Instagram or Snapchat, definitely not into LinkedIn. So what made you jump into LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I'll start probably with the background story and having a look at two things. A big thing for me and always is trying to enter into a market that isn't overly saturated and that's slowly starting to change with LinkedIn. The second part too is a majority of people that are going to buy our products or buy from us at K&J Growth is digital marketing services and to an extent obviously website designing and copywriting, some of the other services that we offer. But those two things combined sort of led me to LinkedIn. One, because there's that looking into getting a lot of traffic from people that have the right sort of personas. And two, you can target very, very well for the people that are likely to buy from you. And obviously people only represent themselves in a very professional manner and light on LinkedIn, comparatively to every other platform where there is a social side of them. Whereas most people will put forward their professional facing persona, and then they'll also more be willing to actually have discussions around business chats and what that looks like.
So I like what you say, that a little bit more serious. So for me at the beginning, when LinkedIn came out, it kind of felt very much resume style, and not just resume talk, but also kind of like, because it's all about business, everybody's trying to pitch you something, right?
Yeah, well, that's it. So, I think anyone who's on any other social media platform will be used to either receiving something like a messenger bot, an Instagram DM, Snapchat ads, and those types of things. LinkedIn's the only platform that really isn't serving too much of that stuff yet. That's intrusive, annoying. But the other side of it is that people are actually willing to share professional insights in what they're doing. And a big part is that obviously the conversations that are generated around that are either to do with, hey, how do I grow my business? How do I get better at this? What does that look like? What would you suggest I do in these areas? And for the most part, those conversations usually lead to someone discussing, hey, is it a skill that I can hire from you? Or are you looking for a new job? and vice versa, whether you're an employer or an employee, or someone as a contractor like us, there's a ton of potential sitting out there for people to chat with you and get involved.
So would you say people join LinkedIn with the purpose of hiring and, and selling? That's like the main focus of the platform?
I'd say the majority of people that come onto LinkedIn and start there is they're looking for a new job. Most people want to have an online professional resume, and they're not really enjoying their new job, or they're trying to scope and see what's out there. The other sort of 10 to 15% of people on there are people that are like recruiters or employers looking for the right person. And so it goes maybe like 80, 15% of those, and then there's the sort of 5%, maybe even a little bit less, 2 to 3% of people like myself are out there who are contractors, who are either looking for new work, trying to grow their own personal brand, or trying to actually set up something that gives them a professional light where they can gauge speaking gigs and those types of things as well.
Okay, so you started a business. Tell us a little bit about that. So you started a business and you're like, how am I going to grow this? And even though everybody says Facebook ads, you're like, no, let's do LinkedIn.
I think it comes back to two things. And the way that we look at when we're working with clients is, okay, cool. Firstly, what's the market area that you're in that's being saturated by competitors, but it's going to cost you a lot less to attain a new lead, to find someone who's willing to jump on, and where they're going to convert the best. And so K&J was founded, K&J Growth, which is our marketing company, was founded in 2016. And then at the start of 2018, I sort of wanted to find a network that would allow me to talk to just other CEOs, people to learn from. A big part of what I did and how we ended up connecting with people is I managed to speak with people who were even from right down employee level to admin executives to right up to GMs and the CEOs themselves. And the big thing that I did take out of it was getting book recommendations. But the other part of it was obviously this learnings, but the ability to jump into LinkedIn and grab these types of people out. And as a marketing agency and someone doing it, the cost per acquisition is very, very low. Organically, I managed to connect with obviously 5,000 plus people who are in senior positions, and ended up being connected to the Prime Minister of New Zealand themselves. And then the second part that comes with that is it just wasn't saturated, and there's people who are not doing it yet. And I know now people are getting a lot of horrible messages, which is partly my fault, but there's that automation that's going on as well.
So when Kel says it's partly his fault, his guide of how to send private messages for people has been downloaded over 18,000 times. And now we have, if people are putting it into practice, at least 1,000 people, right, who actually do what you tell them to do and start sending messages.
Yeah, well, that's it. So I've the guide that I wrote, it's a big one. It's sort of just over 50 pages, and it's pretty in depth in terms of telling it and outlining exactly what I did. But a key part of that is how they connect with other people, and some of those scripts that people have been using have been sort of abused in the wrong way. So I've been on the receiving end of my own business messages, which is interesting.
So let's talk about that, because that is, I think across the board, the biggest thing is, for me, for example, is don't produce so much content, but connect with people. And that's exactly what you started doing. I found that the hardest thing to do on LinkedIn, especially if someone doesn't follow you, how do you send them a message if it's not paid, right? If it's not paid advertising, how do you connect with people?
Yeah, cool. So the thing that most of us will see is that there's two parts to this conversation. One is connecting with people authentically, and two is connecting with people at scale.
Right.
There's a bit of automation that comes behind this and the tools that I've used, which is involved in the guide, but there's a thing like LinkedIn Helper, which allows you to connect with people at scale. The thing with most of the times of when you're trying to connect with someone else is don't think, what am I getting out of this? Because ultimately most people will pick up on that message straight away. If you send a note when you go to hit connect with someone on LinkedIn, it'll offer you a thing that says add a note. Now in there you have 300 words to discuss and say why you want to connect with someone. There's two ways to do this. One is you can immediately go out and say, hey, I want to connect with you and I want to sell you a product and service. terrible way to do it because most people don't want to be sold something from a complete stranger.
Yeah.
The other way to do it is to actually connect with someone, look at their profile and say, hey, look, I'm trying to expand my network. You look like an interesting individual. And from my profile, this is what I do. I'd love to learn more from you. And ultimately, that's a much better intro than being like, hey, my name's Kale. I have a marketing agency. Buy my product, which is usually what's happening now with people pitching. That second part, like I said, is automating that so you can actually connect with people at scale. So the first message that goes out to people that you would do is you would have a list of people that you think would be exciting to connect with. And you would start with people who have a very a mid-level job to sort of frontline job, which is like a brand manager, someone who is an account executive. And you go through and say, hey, I'm looking to grow my professional network. I'd love to connect with you here on LinkedIn. If there's anything you need from me, please feel free to stay in touch. Once you connected with those types of people, you'll then have second connections with a lot of people who are in the senior management. And then that comes into connecting with people who are marketing managers, people who are CEO or execs. And then you can go through the second spree of connecting with these higher level people and say, hey, look, I'm trying to grow my network. I'd love to connect with you. This is what I'd like to learn from you. Do you have any book recommendations? And I'd love to stay connected here on LinkedIn. And that's sort of how you get those intros to those sort of higher mid-tier people. And then finally, you can go after the CEO, general managers, and the big sort of people of those companies, because again, you've got a second connections with multiple people within their network, and they make it look like a friendlier intro, as opposed to what that first alternative is of, hey, I'm reaching out to sell you my service. This is what I want to do. And then getting rejected. So that's the sort of intros you can do and sort of look at. But again, it's using that tool, LinkedIn Helper, and then automating and scaling the right type of people you want to connect with, and doing it in those tiers of someone who's sitting first at like front facing of the business, then marketing manager, or someone who's a manager at that level, then the CEOs and GMs.
So, I love what you say about that connection, because this is exactly as if you moved into a new town and you didn't know anyone, and then you went to a networking event or like the Chamber of Commerce and you said, hey, I want to get to know the president of the Chamber of Commerce because I want them to refer me to something, right? And rather than going like, okay, where's the president so I can pitch in my services, you start going like slowly trying to see how you can benefit everybody in the chamber. And it kind of goes, kind of like in real life, right?
Well, that's it. I think that there's two things for most people in the way they interact. One is that if you're polite, people reciprocate politeness. And the other part too is that if you do someone a favor, more often than not, people want to repay favors. So the thing is being kind and reaching out to someone and saying, hey, I know you exist. I think you look like a professional I want to be involved with. Let's stay in touch. And then you send that person a message about staying in touch, then of course they want to talk to you. If you ask them for a book recommendation, they're going to give you a book recommendation. The key thing to doing that is that if people ask you for help, be open to reciprocating it. Don't always consistently just take what you want. And so that's the key thing that I learned out of this experiment.
I totally agree with you. And it's very, very interesting to see how many people are coming in and going like, okay, what can you do for me? Right? And it's very interesting. Most of the messages that I get on LinkedIn are kind of like that, right? Like, hey, actually, I got to tell you this one because it's funny. So this lady sends me a message and goes like, hey, here's nice to connect with you. Here's my secret weapon of growing your business. I've done it with 2 companies and I've grown their business. Here's my video. Automatically, that secret weapon is going to be something funny, right? Or somebody to sell to you, right? So I go and I check it out, and her secret weapon is podcast. I'm like, okay, not secret.
Yes.
Totally not secret, and definitely not like the like way back when John Lee Dumas started. It was great, right? Now it's harder to get into the notary and worthy and notary. So I'm like, you know what, this is great. But I love live video because A, you leverage the live algorithms, and B, now you have a video, you can grab that content and make it into a podcast. And she goes like, but everything starts with podcast first. And I'm like, how so? Right? Like, it's not. So I'm like, actually, did you see Frank Kern? Have you seen that, Kale? Frank Kern's video where he shows that he made more money with live video than he did with Facebook ads? You see that?
I'm not surprised.
No. So I'm sharing that with her, and she goes like, I hate Frank Kern. That guy's, like, why are you trying to sell me something? And I'm like, no, you approached me with your secret weapon. I'm telling you, it's not so secret, and my opinion about it. And now you're defensive of like, why are you trying to sell me something? And I said, it's very funny how everybody approaches everyone on LinkedIn and on social trying to sell them. But when it's reversed, it's kind of like, hey, you trying to sell me something?
Yeah, and that's it. I think that people, for the most part today, one, have a bevy of choice in terms of who they want to try and connect with and how many people they can go through. And for most people, it seems to be a numbers game, right? So they might get 99 rejections and then one will say yes. And so like, cool, I've got a 1% conversion rate. I just need to talk to another 100 people, burn through 99 of those contacts to get to the one who's going to say yes. And ultimately growing a network and growing a business like that it's short-sighted.
Yeah. And
yep, they'll make profit in the short term, but the long run it's not an ethical way to do business. And so you get those people who are just probably in it for themselves, and then put the rest of us and the others who are trying to do a better job of it at risk and putting some pressure on us.
Yeah. So the biggest concern that people are coming into LinkedIn is probably like, what do I look like? Right? Like, do I need to have 500 plus connections before I start reaching to CEOs? You say yes?
Yeah, cool. So I'll answer that very, very briefly and honestly. The idea for what it is, and this is something I picked up initially, is that people are receptive to connecting with anyone who reaches out to them. It definitely helps if you have other connections that are linked to those people. And if you're starting out with a LinkedIn profile that has 100 connections and you're trying to connect with the CEO or the GM of like Burger Fuel or some of those higher companies, which I tried to go after, you're probably going to get a no because one, this person doesn't have a clue who you are. They have no other connection to you, and you're a stranger pretty much trying to pitch them something. And for most people, they're just used to getting burned or getting annoyed by people like that. So starting out and tactically, if you're someone who is trying to do this, and I'll go into some details with this, is that your goal, if you're in an industry that I'm going to use engineering because I've got a friend who's in engineering and wants to scale their business up, your goal should be to connect with other front-facing engineers. So that's someone who's maybe at a junior level or someone who's at a mid-tier level. You go out and find someone with the title on LinkedIn, and then you would go, okay, cool, this person is product engineer. You'd connect with those people, and you connect with as many people across those companies around New Zealand. One, by doing that, you're going to have a network of people who are interested in the exact same things you are. Yeah. The second part of doing that is that when you share content and it's in your industry-specific niche, people will want to read it, right? So if you're sharing things about engineering and you have an audience of all engineers who are still front-level facing engineers, which teaches them how to do a better day-to-day of their job, of course they're going to be interested in reading about it. So you're going to have, one, better content for your audience, and two, your audience already likes what you're presenting, right? So at any level you can do that. As long as you've got some sort of experience within an industry, you can have 30 connections and start connecting with people on that front-facing things, and your goal is just to learn, observe what they're doing or sharing on LinkedIn, and then start producing content that works for them. Once you've built that list up, and you can do this using LinkedIn Helper and automatically scaling and finding those people. But once you've done that and you've got a connection list of 500 people, the next part you would go is you'd go, cool, all right, I'm looking to connect with engineering leads, or I'm looking to connect with product engineering managers or engineering managers, right? When you go to collect those people, you've got a connections of like 500 people now, and then you're actually connecting with them and they've got second connections. And they're like, cool, okay, this person knows these people, I'm willing to connect. And then from there, you might have 1,000 connections, and then you can start connecting with the CEOs, the managers, the general managers of those companies. And it scales up because, again, people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And if you know someone else that they know, they've probably got a good chance if they like that person, then they know that they might be able to trust you. And so that's sort of that scaling process of connecting with people who are at the same tier as you or the same level as you, who are interested in the same things, and then consistently scaling up. And it's the same way that most networking works.
I love that. I love that because, like you said, it's a long-term game, and relationships and really, really good relationships take time. You know, you don't build a relationship in a minute, and that's why you said 90 days.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Right. And so guys, if you guys are wondering what guide are we talking about, you can download that guide if you go to imthatgeek.com/live. Right to the right of the video, you'll see LinkedIn virality, and you can download the guide from there and just walk step by step. Everything that Kel is talking about, all his system, everything is right there. So click on that link. You can download it now, and we're gonna go into user interaction. So thank you, Elizabeth, for watching us, and Cheryl, and everybody here on Zoom. If you guys want to join us, this is the link, imthatgeek.com/live. And I want to say good morning to Margaret, who's joining us from Australia, and it's 5 a.m. over there. So I don't know if you're going to join us on video because it's 5 a.m., but we would love to have you. And so when we started, I said we're going to give away this little Android thingy, and we're going to give it away randomly to test one of Kel's mathematical theories of LinkedIn algorithm. So let's talk about the algorithm, then tell you how you can win this. Hopefully you guys are going to do that, and we'll be able to test the system. So you figured out math of what it takes to get 100,000 views on your videos, on your posts on LinkedIn. So how does that work?
Yeah, so I'll jump back to the concept and things that I want to leverage initially. So there's a very, very smart guy named Josh Fetchter. He runs a community called BAMF, which stands for Bad Arts Marketers and Founders. And he initially found a little thing where he tested some of his own posts and concepts, and he found that roughly the number of likes equated to about 168 views on his thing when he was doing his content. And so I thought, okay, cool. I'll leverage some of his learnings and try to do that with myself. What I wanted to test when I first initially did this is, one, how many comments generate a view, and then the other part too, how many likes generate a view, or what a like and how many views are generated from that. Mm-hmm. So to calculate this, and I went back and I sort of started connecting with other people who have had content that's been content that's been viewed over 100,000 times. I was like, hey, I'm looking at trying to figure out an algorithm, or the number per likes that you'll get. If you get a number of likes, how many views you'll get, and how many number of comments. And so it worked out to find out in 2018 that you could get roughly per like, you get 108 views. And so that's one of the key concepts we came up with. LinkedIn's algorithm consistently builds as it gets more and more popular. And in 2019, LinkedIn's like, cool, there's a lot of more clickbaity type video, virality type stuff on there, and from people like us, probably sort of ruining the platform. But content-wise, what we found is that now it works out roughly, so per comment, you'll get an equal equivalent to about 108 views. Now, when I went and experimented with creating like the video last year and how I did it, and I was like, cool, if I want to hit 1 million views, I need to know I'm going to have to work to at least get 20 comments within the first hour.
Wow, okay.
Because again, algorithm-wise, it's going to pick up, and then I need that momentum to keep moving. And it roughly worked out to be, in 16 hours, I needed at least, I think, would have been 976 comments to pick it up to make it go viral. Okay. And so the way we did it is that the first part, within the first hour, you need at least 20 comments. So what we did is got in contact with a lot of friends who I knew who would be able to have said, hey, if I posted this time, can you put a comment on this post and then tag another friend with them doing it?
Oh, okay.
And so that was the consistent method. What we did is I went out, sent a message to his friends that was via Facebook and LinkedIn, and I said, hey, this is the exact time I'm posting. I'd love your help in scaling this. What can you do is just pop a comment on the post of the video, tag someone else. And then so within the first hour, I ended up getting 34 comments. And then obviously, as you guys know, then the story sort of spiraled out and ended up getting over, I think, 16,000 comments and maybe even some more likes than that, which ended resulted in that 2 million.
You had
views.
like 18,000 comments and more.
Yeah. So there was a huge number there, and that sort of kept blowing out. And the thing is, too, it all led to the guide, which we probably had maybe 30,000 people visit that page to download, and then 18,000 people ended up downloading it. So it ended up going obviously bigger than we expected. And then I ended up having LinkedIn reaching out to me and saying, hey, we'd love to share some of your content on on our social media channels as well. So that was very cool. We ended up working with their social team in the end as a result of it as well.
That is fantastic. So guys, we're going to test it out. And I'm going to try to share my screen right now and see if that works. So let me see that. So I'm going to share my screen, and this is what we're going to try to do. So right here, let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, you do. Okay. So, and no, we can't see it on the broadcast. Why not? This is lovely. Okay, so if you guys on the show, what you see on the screen is that a post that I'm going to share right now on LinkedIn, and it's basically connecting to our show right now. So if you're going to go to LinkedIn and find my profile, which is easy because I'm the only fat coin that you know over there, and this is my name. So if you go in there and just leave a like and a comment and let us know that I love everything that Kale is sharing, for example, right? Just leave a comment, no links, no anything like that. Really like your opinion of what you're thinking so far, all about the show, about the ideas, about the tactics, about how you love being here with us, and then we'll see if this is going to go viral or going to go to 100,000 views, right? Or comments. We'll see what happens. And the way that you guys are going to win this beautiful thing is like we're just randomly going to choose someone from the comments, and I'm going to reach out to you in messaging, and I'm going to ask you for your address, and we're going to send this with a little, maybe even chocolate for Valentine. So if you know where to find me on LinkedIn, please do that. If you're watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, on the website, you can do it now, or you can do it once we're done with the show. Either way, within the hour, just so we can test the theory a little bit. And so, last thing, we are going to move it into audience interaction. So the first person that was here. So if you guys want to join us in audience interaction, if you have any questions about the system or anything like that, this is the place to be. I'm.geek.com/live. There's a button. You can hop on in, and we can have an unscripted conversation about how to go viral on LinkedIn. The one thing we haven't talked about, Kale, before we jump into people, and guys, just nod like if you want to jump in, and I'll let you in. How do you get your first 5 clients from LinkedIn? What do we do?
Yeah, so
and again, he did that. Hold on a second. I'm going to have to come back to you. Just a second. I don't know why it keeps dumping into something else. Let me bring you in. There we go. So how do we go viral? No, how do we find clients?
No, clients. Yeah. So the conversation organically usually comes from one of 3 things. So the first one is once you've connected with that person, the second part is initiating a conversation around what your skill set is, and again, asking someone for help as opposed to asking for someone to work for you. So essentially, once you've connected with people and you've been connected after that first message and they said, hey, thanks for connecting, or they've actually connected with you, you can send the second follow-up message, and you can automate this. And what I did is I said, hey, thank you for connecting with me. As I'm working to grow our agency, I see you've been in marketing for a while, and even if you're new, what were some of the books that were the most helpful for you? And ultimately from there, I ended up getting a lot of content and questions about, cool, Kale, this is what I do, or Kale, what is the marketing products that you do? I'd explain what we did and how we did it, and they'd say, okay, excellent, cool. That's really exciting. Or, hey, this is what I would do, or hey, this might not work. And I'd get a ton of feedback, one, that genuinely improved our business, and I was exceptionally thankful for. But the second time was when people asked what our services were, like, oh, hey, well, look, if you are looking to do this, I've got a friend who's happy to, who would love to chat, and I know they're trying to build a website. Or, hey, I've got a friend who's just launched another business, they're looking to do this. Or, hey, our agency, the one that we've just finished working with, we're looking to test someone new, could you work with us? And that was generally what it was. They were all organic conversations spiraled from a first initial question about, one, asking for people for advice, and then the result, they would end up obviously wanting to spend money with you, as opposed to actually asking for money and then going through and then saying, hey, I need you to spend money with me as a client. And so that was the biggest thing, was that once you connect with people, again, it was asking for advice that led them to wanting to nurture a better relationship, and an organic relationship that resulted in us actually getting more clients in the door. And that led to the first 5, which led to, I've now up to we've got probably a count of over maybe 60 to 70 clients from LinkedIn.
Wow, very nice.
Yeah, and again, it's either been organic referrals from those people in the initial relationships, or people have just seen my other content and said, hey, look, I'd love to work with you. Can you help us do this for our own business as well?
You know what's fantastic about this is that people don't want to be sold, but they all want their problem solved. And if they realize that you're the one who can help them solve the problem, you don't need to sell them on anything.
And that's it. That's exactly it. And by asking for help, people are very open to reciprocating with help and reciprocating favors. But people are obviously hostile to being sold something, and it's understandable. No one wants to be forced to say, hey, I have to spend money with you to spend time with you. But they are more than willing to offer their own expertise and time to help you.
Love it. So let's jump into user interaction. Hey, Jen, I'm going to unmute you. There you go. Hi.
Hey, Spot, how's it going?
Fantastic. I love seeing you here.
I'm glad I could make it. I'm sorry I was a little bit late, but I wanted to catch Kale. Hi, how's it going?
Hey, Jen, how are you?
I'm well. I wanted to ask really quickly, you said that you could automate those follow-up messages. And then, so I wanted to ask about that.
Yes.
And then also if you're ever concerned about being kind of too generic and turning people off. Like maybe I just have like a sensor for that, or maybe people that do it to me don't have the tact that you have. But oftentimes I'm just like, wah, wah, like I get it. You know, it feels super.
Yeah, I get the fact that you're still trying to sell me something.
Right.
Yeah. And the thing here, one is, there's a tool, and you might have missed this at the beginning. The tool that helps automate a lot of this is a Chrome extension called LinkedIn Helper. And so for the things that allows you to, one, if you've got a premium profile, you'll be able to use a tool like the Sales Navigator to find the leads that you're after. The second part is obviously once you've connected with people, it'll say you can collect the people you've recently connected with in the last maybe 7 days, and that'll give you a list of maybe 100 to 200 people. Then you can send through an automated message that says, and this is the part where copy comes in, it is, hey, first name, and then you'd say, thank you for taking the time to connect with me. Really appreciate it. All I'm looking to do, and the thing is you can say, I'm working on improving my resume. I'm looking to improve another aspect of my business. I'd love to know from the time in your industry and the business, any books that have been really helpful to you, or any people that you think I should recommend or check out online, right? And so it's a very, very simple ask. And most of the time people will respond to that exceptionally positively. Because most people like to share the things that have had an impact on them. And that ask is in terms of, I've written the copy in the guide, but yeah, it's doing it in a subtle way of not saying, hey, give me a book, or hey, I need something from you directly right now. Because more than not, you get those things like those spammy messages, which you've probably received.
Yeah, I mean, so shame on me for being late, right? Because I totally missed that. So thank you for the refresher on the helper. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no, you're more than welcome. Just download that guide and you should be more than enough. It's a long one. It's 50 pages. So it goes into a lot of detail for sort of the psychology and the way to write that copy. But another thing too is obviously just intention wise is that you should be looking for the information that comes from that question. And if anything more comes from it, then it's a plus and a bonus.
Sweet, thanks.
You're more than welcome.
It's almost like picking people's brains, right? It's kind of like, hey, let me do some research and find out what my audience is interested in, or what can I help with, or am I understanding the needs correctly, right? And then you just reach out to people and go like, do I have this right? Is that really what's going on? Or are you facing something different? Would that be some kind of a question that you can send out on a mass scale and figure it out?
The thing is, you can tailor that question very, very easily. It's, look, most of us are still scared and they're not really sure what they're doing. It's going well and it's working, but any way to improve is also like a blessing. And so for the most part, is if you've got something like that and you can say, hey, I've tried this method. I'd love to know, is there any other better ways of doing it, right? And most people will have some form of opinion. And if they don't, they'll know someone who will. And they're usually more than happy to make an intro for you. They might send up an email. The only thing I would caution on this is that it can get very, very busy. By the end of sort of my first month of doing this, I'd wake up to sort of each day at least 30 to 50 messages in my inbox. And then it would be one, trying to help the people that have asked for you of your time, but two, just trying to get back to that certain volume of people.
Yeah, so I would actually think that would be, your rich people's problems, right? Like you made so many connections, and now, you actually need to connect with them.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. And so for me, there was probably after the viral video, and even leading up to that, I was getting close to maybe 200 messages a day. And I had to take a break from LinkedIn because I ended up getting burned out, and the volume of leads and the people that were coming through was incredible. And it ended up I ended up getting maybe roughly about another 20 messages or emails in my inbox, which is an awesome problem to have and exactly sort of what I'd asked for. But you need to be a little careful if things go too well, which is an awesome and nice problem to have.
So how would you ever kind of feel like you're dropping the ball because you can't get to all those 200 people, or do you? Oh
yeah. Hundreds all the time. Like there was a feeling of guilt because there were so many people that had helped me with LinkedIn, and these people from, again, like CEOs to startup incubators who were offering really incredible advice, and I used and implemented what they'd said. And then there were people that I just couldn't get back to in a day. So when the video obviously went live, to the point where by the end of the first week, I had an inbox of over 1,000 messages, and I had like 11,000 connection requests. I just couldn't get back to people. And so there was definitely a little bit of guilt with that because, again, I'd had so many people help me. But yeah, so I guess it's one of those things that is the byproduct of obviously today's digital age as well.
And you've done, I just want to make sure that everybody understands, this is without any ads, without any...
so that's it. There's no paid promotion in this. This was all organic. The only thing I paid for was a premium account and then just the LinkedIn Helper extension, which roughly equates to, I think it's $13.99 USD.
I think it's free. I've been using it and it keeps going like your 14 days are about to be over, but it's been like that for like a month or something. So
there you go. Yeah, so there might have been that there's that free version versus the pro version, and I think the pro version is the one that I use. But again, like I said, you can still use that free version too.
Yeah. So Nathan, let's jump into you, my friend.
Hey, can you hear me, Yifan?
Yes, we can. Jump on in.
Oh, very nice. Hey, Kale, really good to speak with you. Thanks for making the time. And because you pointed me to the guide quite a while ago, I was tuned into who you are, and you've already helped me. So thank you so much.
Good. Thanks for taking the time to chat, and I appreciate that. That's really great.
Yeah, absolutely. LinkedIn's worked great for you, and obviously it's given you some of the same advantages that you try to bring to the table for your clients.
Yes.
So where does it figure in as far as how often is that one of the strategies that you help clients with? And does it usually look different than what you've done, or are you just basically changing the playbook for their vertical?
Yeah, cool. Good question. So the thing that I usually look at, and for most of us at K&J, the goal for what we do is to have a look at what the cost per acquisition is for a channel, right? So most companies will be across multiple social platforms. They're also across PPC, and they'll also be across like salespeople doing cold outreach, cold calling, and those types of things. What we'll do, and when we jump on with people and clients, is we'll say, cool, what's the cost per acquisition for each of these channels? And for a majority of the time, most people don't really know, right? It takes a bit of hard data, and it's sort of hard to know, okay, cool, what's someone's hourly rate worth to actually spend them against? They're making 100 calls a day versus a PPC ad versus those types of things. So initially what we do is we try and get some data out of, right, this is what you're doing. This probably looks like a much, much cheaper way to drive leads. So a good one for us, and yep, we might change the vertical, but more often than not, it's a tailored sort of setup for how we outreach. So a good example is we work with a nonprofit who works with helping homeless children. And so for them, a big thing is one, the implementation of the education programs that they use and for how they raise money. The second is obviously raising money from charity donors. So for them, they had a very, very unique thing of, hey, we need to connect with some more pastors. And then the second part was we need to obviously raise charity donors. And those are very different audiences, right? So what we did is we used the founder's LinkedIn's account. One was to connect with the pastors in terms of, hey, these are the people, this is our education program, and this is how you implement it. And we found people who were able to do that. The second person's account, what we used, which was Val's, she was able to find donors. And what she was doing was targeting large companies that had a position and tax-free breaks to actually work with people and non-profits to offer money and charities to, right? So you would take a two-pronged approach, but for the most part, it's obviously scoping what's the most important part for these people and what it looks like. And for them, the cost per acquisition for what it turned out to be a lead worked out to be roughly like 0.3 of this or 0.003 cents. So about 3 cents for them comparatively to what it was previously, right? Yeah, because again, all they're paying for is LinkedIn Premium. And then the goal was obviously just that outreach. And so previously from like PPC campaigns or those other areas, it was like, cool, well, look, you might be paying $1.20 a lead. Let's drastically reduce that and find the best place to do it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, you're more than welcome. What vertical or what are you doing in your area? Are you marketing? What does it look like for you?
It looks like marketing, a lot of, and funnel copywriting really most of the time with a focus on Facebook. But, you know, I kind of can't get stuck there as far as traffic generation. And, you know, right now working with some of the things you were saying sounded really familiar as far as the niching like pastors. And now I'm working with a B2B audience and Facebook makes no sense. You can't even find out, and people will never identify the right way for the people that we need to target. So it's been email and, you know, looking at LinkedIn because I'm very incentivized to drive some things for this venture. So
yeah, excellent. Okay, well, nice. Let's stay in touch, and thanks for taking the time to read the guide too.
Yeah, thank you so much, Cale.
And I'd love for you, you know, to put the guide into use and then come back and be like, look, I've tried this, you know, it's working. I got some questions. That'd be totally okay. I think Cale will be excited to hear back some feedback, right, Cale?
Yeah, of course.
So one of the things in the guide, and we're talking about scaling, right? It's the same message to everyone, right? So if you're sending the same message to 100 people, how do you make it so, and it's kind of like what Jen was asking, right? How do you make it so that it is personal the second time you send it around, right? So like if you, or maybe you don't send the second time on scale and the second time is just one-on-one.
Yeah, so I'll work through the sequence for how it would work and what it looks like. So the first part is you set a list of the industry of the people that you want to connect with and what that is. And then secondly from there, so like let's say I'm targeting marketing, or what I was doing in that scenario is I want to connect with these people and then they all live and exist within marketing. I'm going to connect with them, and when I connect with them, I'm going to add a note that says, hey, looking to grow my network, right?
Wait, but that's manual, right? That's not at scale. That's one by one.
That's at scale. You can use LinkedIn Helper to do that. So you can automate that outreach and do it itself.
Okay.
So that's the first part. The second part is after they're connected with you, you've now got a list of people who might have connected with you within 24 hours, 72 hours, or who are your most recent connections.
Okay.
From there, what you would do is you would send and set up your connection. After you've got this connection, you'd have this list of people, and you can then send out the automated message. And the part that comes with that is in LinkedIn Helper, you can use and say, hey, first name. Almost all LinkedIn outreach, if they're doing it poorly, is most people will send a generic message with, hey, text. By recognizing someone's name and then knowing who they are, then you can actually have that there. And that's the quickest way to obviously do that. And that's at scale again. And that message is generally applicable. Like books are something anyone and almost all of us have, a universal.
Yeah.
The second part too is like quotes. You can ask about quotes. And then the third part, again, on top of that is you can then go through and you can, if you've got people you actually just want to message and you want to do 20 messages a day that you send out, you can just create your own custom one for some form of advice. But almost always you create advice that's specific to that niche. And that's very, very useful for the people because they're able to respond to it because they already work within that area or industry.
So can you choose the people that you are going to send messages at scale with the helper?
Yep, you can.
Okay.
But again, it gets a little bit, so if you're going to do that and you're looking at it, it'll give you the people with 100 and it'll show you the list. Once it's collected those, you can go through and then just untick the people you don't want that message to go to. Gotcha.
Okay, that makes it a lot easier. So Stuart, you had a question or just nod, yes, no? Yes, okay, fantastic. So let's unmute yourself and we'll jump into you. And I unmuted you. Oh, there you go. There you go. Yes, there you go.
There, I think I'm unmuted now.
Yes, you are.
There may be a problem with my audio right now. Is everyone able to hear okay?
Yeah, you're fine.
Yeah, we can hear you fine.
Good. Hey, Cale, thank you. You've been a world of information for me because I think I ran screaming from LinkedIn maybe 7 years ago or so and never kept up with it because it was just a little much for a guy who never would wear a suit, you know. But now I have, I really want to know about LinkedIn. Your guide is going to be very helpful. Is it possible to do what we're doing here now, a live broadcast on LinkedIn through your channel or through your profile?
Yeah, so LinkedIn doesn't have a live option yet, and I'm not sure, it may or may not. They've introduced the stories feature, which is the same as Facebook. A big thing that's becoming prevalent on LinkedIn is that it's promoting video content organically, so it's giving a lot more attention to that. So a thing that I've noticed is that people who are using video content and recording something like this themselves and then posting it up and sharing it, generally performing a lot better with that type of content. And so if you're someone who works better by video and not so much as copywriting, and you want to share a photo of self of what you're doing now and sharing that type of content and speaking, that works really well too, because it's become a very diverse platform.
Excuse me.
Yeah, of course.
When someone does, let's say I make a video of some sort or another, and I post it to, generally we would post to YouTube Live or something like that, and then take the code and put it on a site. Is that system in LinkedIn roughly the same?
Yeah, not yet. There's no embedding.
The YouTube video is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so in terms of being able to embed that on your site, there's still not much there yet for LinkedIn. It's an unraveling thing. I talked to their social media team at the end of last year, and it's some of the implementation that they're looking for the late half of this year.
Okay, so you make your video and then you post it directly to your profile.
Yep.
At that point.
Yep, that would be the best way to get video content out.
And you can drive your message at that point. Do you find, this is going to sound a little odd because it's in my niche, but do you find the political world active within LinkedIn?
Yeah, so a key thing that I also wanted to do with this experiment is, yes, to answer in the shorthand, but again, I ended up connecting with the Prime Minister of New Zealand on LinkedIn. And there's a large political profile where most of these people are spending their time. It'll be Twitter and LinkedIn, because they see these obviously as business profiles, but they're able to influence those audience of the larger CEOs and GMs and voters for what they're after. So there's definitely that ability to actually target people via political parties. And you can see too, obviously, who those people are because they're listed as politicians on the platform.
Yeah, my broadcast, the second half will probably be an interview with a politician of some sort, all aimed towards the idea of the viral attack on the United States and other countries. So it's Nation Under Attack will be the name of the service, and then we'll go from there and come up with other things. But information first.
Excellent.
Thank you.
I'd love to see it.
I'm going to be absolutely fascinated by your guide. I'm sure of that. And I'm going to have to get a hold of the Greek geek here a half a dozen times for her to explain something for me.
Oh, look, you're more than welcome to shoot me a message as well. More than happy to chat. And I'm looking forward to see Attack on the Nation.
So thanks, Stuart. And so Matthias, and then Nathan, and then Robert. Guys, if you have questions for Kale, we got a few more minutes. You are welcome to jump on in. So Matthias, can you unmute? Am I saying it right? Am I saying your name right? Yes, no. Just unmute. Okay, let me unmute you. There you go. Can you?
Okay. Yeah. It's Matthew. It's the French spelling, but it's basically just Matt. Hi.
How you doing?
How you doing? So I wanted to ask about we're talking about when you coordinated people to comment on your post to make blast off, essentially. Mm-hmm. You're talking about it's really important to get at least 20 comments in the first hour.
Yes.
To get to sort of trigger LinkedIn's algorithm.
Yeah, that's it.
And then did you have to make sure people kept commenting, or did it sort of have an organic growth after that?
Yeah, so more often than not, so I've done this now. We've hit 13 clients that we've done this with, and usually within that first, those first 20 people commenting, it's almost all organic. We've done it for the longest we ever did was for 2 hours to focus on it. One, it's just too difficult to coordinate more people than doing it over more than 1 hour. But the second part is that most people, once they've seen it, if there's a good call to action on the copy in the post that triggers someone to comment, it'll follow on its own route. And so you'll get a huge variance in terms of what people end up commenting or what they're doing. But yeah, ultimately it's usually works out to be that sort of lever from there. So
do you have any idea why one went to 15 or 18,000 views and others cap off at a high amount but lower? Or
so that's those in the variance between someone that might end up at 100K versus someone that it might be 15,000 views. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that come into that. Is there's this particular copy for what people comment on. Someone pops like an opt-in for a call to action on a copy saying, hey, comment to get X, Y, and Z guide or something like that. And if they say type I'm in, LinkedIn has a few keywords that it looks for in comments that says, okay, cool, this is a generic comment, or someone's using this as part of their thing to get more traction. Trigger down and pull algorithm down on those posts. And the other one is if it's not longer than 3 words in terms of within like their normal range. So like if it's got to be at least 3 words for it to go a bit further, but usually anything less than 2 words, and LinkedIn's like, cool, algorithm-wise, I can see that it's not an actual useful comment.
Interesting.
So
okay.
Yeah,
great.
That's the thing to look out for.
Thank you so much.
Wow, that is such a great distinction, and I love it because it really separates the spam and the bots from the real interaction. That's fantastic.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so you've just got to make sure a very authentic call to action, or at least one that's an uncommon one.
And that actually gives you a little bit more of a boost for 18,000 comments that were actually substantial and not kind of like, hey, this is cool.
Yeah. That's why I was very careful in terms of choosing the copy that I use.
Love it. Nathan, jump on in. Unmute. There we go, Robert. Can you unmute? I'll unmute you. There we go.
Are we good now? You got me? Okay, thank you. So another question, and you just mentioned, some of the triggers and things that LinkedIn's looking out for. Mm-hmm. I know that officially LinkedIn Helper is definitely on their list of no-nos. Mm-hmm. So my question is, have you ever had an account banned or throttled? And,
definitely.
What happened?
Yeah. So there's 2 sort of APIs and there's 2 sort of extensions that people are looking for. One's Duck Soup, the other is LinkedIn Helper, and the way those automations run. The way to get around that, the first one is when it got banned, we got an email saying, hey, this account's temporarily restricted. And it's like, okay, yeah, cool, I can see why that is. The thing is that if you can run any of these extensions, but it's got to be from the similar or at least a very local IP as to where you are consistently living, right? So they're okay. They'll probably detect if anyone who's got sort of activity over 70 to 80 connections a day, that's sort of like they're okay. They're sort of like that. If you're roughly hitting like 150 a day, then there'll be detection on your account. The other one is that if you've got someone like me who's managing your IP, or who's doing it from my IP in New Zealand, and then who's actually hosting and doing your automation running from there, then it's like, cool, that person lives here, but they log in consistently in Dallas, Texas. Then I can sort of see exactly what's going wrong there. And so it's checking for the IP for which people are logging in on to go through. So those are the two things, and you can do a little bit around rerouting your IP, but for most people, in the most part, do it from your own home and use it that way.
Yeah, makes sense. So it sounds like you're using a VPN server for some things. And
correct.
Okay.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. So for clients, that's what I do. And then obviously there's a few other workarounds, but again, it's a specific case. But yeah, look, flick me any more questions. More than happy to help with that and give you some specific details on it.
Really appreciate it. Thank you again.
Anytime.
Dude, this is kind of like behind the scene, total like badass tactics of how to go and use LinkedIn algorithm. I love it. Last question from Robert. Let's see, Robert, I'm going to unmute you. There you go.
Hello.
Ready?
Hi, Kale. How are you?
Robert, how are you?
I'm good. I sort of grew a following on Facebook. Not intentionally. I sort of in the back of my mind, I knew they would appear. I just went on a mission. I'm still on that, to reach out to people that who what they were doing and what they were saying resonated with me, and I did this through live streams from the comments, and my comments were often paragraph size or multi-paragraph, and I just took whatever was in my heart and threw it in there in a way that in a way that used kindness and empathy and compassion to support the host and the guest. And I became friends with all these people. And about 3 or 4 months in, friend requests started pouring in, sometimes 300 a day.
Wow.
And I had to turn off that notification because I came to dread that sound because it could come at any time. And sometimes if you say, okay, they look good, they start chatting right away. And it doesn't matter what time of day it is.
Yes.
And it could be a struggle to say something pleasant in a greeting. Now, that's just who I am. I like to reach out to the heart, and my reason for doing this is I felt that there was a need amongst the people that are leading the way, helping people, making a difference. Just like anybody else, they need to know, they need to hear this from people in an effective, and honest, a heartfelt, genuine way. That they're making a difference. People believe in you, and people love you, and I've sort of been like a cheerleader. That's what I feel like half the time. I never had any thought of making money. Now I'm leaning towards making money, and that's through courses. I bring that everywhere, though. That's what's won me the most friends. Is I take emotion to places that's not commonly welcome. And
so, Robert, do you have a question of how to use that in LinkedIn, or do you have a specific question about that tactic?
People, well, what I do, I do connect people to. I call it loving on people. Other people call it networking. How to monetize it in a way that keeps it genuine.
Yeah, there's two sort of things that I'm looking at and hearing from what you've just given me feedback wise. Is one, if you're looking to monetize an audience, there has to be a product that you want to sell with that. And the first thing is that if you're creating that level of engagement and reaction, what I would suggest is creating an online course that outlines exactly how you've done it, right? That says exactly, this is the specific tactics, this is how I did it, and this is what this looks like. The second part then is using that to monetize that from that audience that you've already generated, right? and pulling that in from either LinkedIn or from Facebook or whichever the platform that you're using that on. But that would be my biggest suggestion, is that if you've got a skill like that, teach people what those emotional levers are, what those keywords you are that treat people and make them think and feel the way that you're getting those reactions. And then the third part is obviously teach it in a very deliverable and easy manner so that people can adopt that and use it. And I would look at that as being a very, very core skill that you've got, because if you can generate that much attention and demand, then you've got a very, 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 very strong networking skill or copy that you're using to actually generate that feedback.
Yes. It's I guess it's just me being me and working. I call it working within my purpose, because I'll do it all day. It doesn't feel like work, and there's a lot of joy generated and a great deal of fulfillment every day. I never focused on. I never even thought I'd have to make money from it, but circumstances change, and it's required to. So how do you? Because anything I do is right from the heart, and I reach into people's souls and connect with them. And I have a deep love of people, but I also have a deep need to love people. And that was the main reason I did it, is because I live with depression, and it's made depression very easy to manage. And I experienced more joy last year in 1 year than I had the previous 50. So it's the way I'm going to live. So I just wanted to thank you.
Excellent.
Just for putting it, for being here and for helping us. That I do. It's when I do actually focus on something like that, I know it works. When I take that time to be grounded each day, and today I'm not as grounded as I'd like to be, but I'm getting there, because I can actually usually reach ground once I've begun connecting with someone.
Robert, what you're saying is fantastic. And, I highly believe that we need more connection than content. So when you're reaching out to people out there and connecting with them and, making their life better, through those conversations, you definitely can find out if there's anything else that they need, right? Like the same way that you need. Maybe they need a community, maybe they need a Facebook group, maybe they need something else that you can that you can provide them. So rather than figuring out how to monetize what you do now, I would highly suggest just going out there and figuring out what people need. You're talking to so many people. What do they struggle with? And then you'll have some kind of a pattern coming up and be like, wow, okay, I can create this thing and it will help all these people. And just like Kel was saying at the beginning, once they know you and they trust you, you don't need to sell them anything. They come to you to solve their problems. So it'll be a very easy path to monetizing. Does that make sense?
It does. I guess it comes back to believing in oneself. That's my struggle. At the end of the day, my self-image never really started to come into its own until after I spent 9 months with a psychologist at 20, when the depression really got so bad that I couldn't work, and then was official diagnosis and things went from there.
So I have an idea, because we're running out of time. I will connect you with a good friend of mine that is fantastic at helping that. And there's also a Facebook community that might be a really great place for you to meet more people and A, help them, and B, kind of get support for that. Is that cool?
Yes, thank you. I apologize for not having a specific question, but cool. And this is Kale too. And you would know, like, I'm going to look more into you, and I'll get in touch. I'll send you a message, Kale, and then you'll know that you've been properly thanked. So that's my goal.
Okay.
Just to let you,
Excellent.
just to write you something that grabs your soul and holds onto it.
Well, thank you
Excellent.
so much for jumping on, especially when you're not feeling so well. So it's great to see you. And we're a little bit over time. So the one thing that I would like to thank Kale first, not only did you put up the exact strategy out there to help people to go with it, but you also gave us some kind of like insider tips of how you can use the algorithm to surface higher. So if anyone wants that, right there next to the video, thatgeek.com, there's a little banner that says LinkedIn virality. And then Kale, where can people find you aside from that guide? Where else can they find you?
Yeah, look, I'm across most social platforms. You'll find me somewhere like Instagram, LinkedIn obviously is the big one, and then everything else from Facebook as well. If you've got any specific questions too, feel free to flick me an email on kale@kponaho.com.
And you also have a community, right? You're growing a new community on Facebook. Is that right?
Yeah, we've got an influencers community. And so if you're interested in joining that covers more of the technical stuff around digital copywriting and then also some of the health and fitness as well.
Health and fitness, we all need that for 2019. So aside from LinkedIn, if you want to have good headshots on LinkedIn, head over to health and fitness and you can grab that there. So thank you so much. Last thing, remember we are doing a little test on LinkedIn. Kel, does it matter if you're responding to yourself as you're getting those 20 comments, or does it have to be 20 different people?
Yeah, so it's 20 different people is a key pivotal part of that, because obviously LinkedIn has you'll see on your post now that says you're the author, but it ignores extra comments that come from you as well.
Okay, so if you guys want to win this little Android thingy, it's very unique. You can't buy it anywhere. You can only get it from Google. So if you want to win that, go over to LinkedIn, find our show, and comment below and let us know what you loved most about it. Thank you so much, Kale, and we'll see you on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Thank you for everyone coming. Cheers. Bye.